thing. This was something funny. It's like you see Ben Richards and Amber. They're running around like in these zones, and Amber says like something along the lines like, "Me and my big mouth. I should have just gone to Hawaii." And Richard says, "I had the shirt for it, but you fucked it up." It's just hilarious where these lines are coming from at this point. And then Fireball comes down into their sight. And at this point, we're at an hour, 12 minutes into the film. And Richard starts picking up barrels. He's throwing them. He tells Amber to run. Fireball is able to walk through the fire. And then, of course, this is where we kind of see, I think Amber's like wandering around at the back, and then she discovers the three corpses, like the bones of course, the three supposed winners. Yep, Whitman, Price, and whatever his name was, the guy without any chicks on his arm. Well, he definitely didn't have any chicks, did he? Because he was dead. But the whole thing where she's I didn't get the whole thing. Like, I get she's read one of the guys' names off, but like, come on! I think by this point we know who they are. I don't know why they did that, and then I hate that thing where you always have to speak out loud so that the audience know what you're seeing. And then, of course, she gets caught out because Fireball walks through and catches her and says, something like, I thought these were last year's winners. And then he's like, these are last year's season's losers. And then, of course, now this is probably one of the worst battles in the whole thing. Like, Richard's just, how the hell we got up there, I have no idea. Is he Batman all of a sudden? He's like scouting him. And he just rips out, what is that, like a hydraulic pipe or something like that, or gas pipe?
Yeah.
And that's the end of that. Like, and then he, of course, uses that luddy line, how about a light?
So cheesy.
What a hothead. Something along. But yeah, I think that was, for me, Matt, that was totally rushed. Like, that was terrible. That fight. Like, considering what we'd seen, the brutality, I was expecting so much more. When we get to this guy, like, I'm thinking this is gonna be much more than what we got. What did you make of that? Because it just seemed like it was over way too soon. The editing looked like they kind of just, it seemed like they just thought, well, we haven't got enough time to put any more. We're not going to come up with anything different or creative. Like, they just didn't really use anything into this one.
Nah, this was it was a little bit far fetched. Yeah. But before we get to that bit, like you were saying, when she saw those three dead guys and then worked out who they were, it just seems like really like another big mistake in the movie. Like, one, why would there be a name tag on this person? And two, why did they not dispose of these bodies if it was such a big secret? Put them in an incinerator. I mean, Fireball could have toasted them up for you anyway, and you wouldn't have recognised it after that. Yeah. So that was definitely like another plot hole there. But yeah, this fight, definitely felt like time was running out. It seemed like a sensible kind of idea, or they thought, well, they'd had enough action, how about we just try and do something a little bit smarter? But it really wasn't. It just felt so silly the way they did that he couldn't see him walking into that room. That room was only about 10 foot by 10 foot, and you can't see him on the wall or on the ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I don't know. I would have liked to have seen how he got up there, and I think it would have been better from Ben Richards' perspective than the perspective of Amber at that point. But yeah, we're led to believe he was up there all that time, and he was just scouting the whole thing to happen. Then we get to a scene where Captain Freeman is called to the wardrobe, and he goes into the studio shock of what's happened to this, and Captain walks in looking in ridiculous, crappy, this is even worse than Dynamo at this point. This is and he even calls it, he's like, what is this garbage? And, he's he says to Killian that, killing guys, I've been killing guys like this for 10 years. Killian says, Cap, will you spare me the combat Zen speech? And then, what the hell is wrong with you? And then, he's totally having a go at him. He's like, what's the matter? Steroid make you deaf or something like that. He's really popping at him at this time because he wants him out of there. But obviously, Captain Freeman is not going along with this plan. He does not like what's happening. And, this now means that Killian has to come up with something else. And, of course, he's going to go to his best mate, Tony, who's the editor or whatever he's doing, to come up with something and in the broadcast booth. But meanwhile, Richard is looking for Mick's broadcast centre, and unfortunately, Tony upstairs is editing digital memory mapped on the stunt double and the makeup of a fight. Now, for me, when I saw this, I completely forgot that for some reason, I always thought they had a real fight. They didn't. This was a made-up fight. It's digital. It's a stunt double. But my question to you, Matt, and maybe it's your question as well, is if they could do all this, why not just make the whole show like this? Because they could do whatever they want.
Yeah, it just seemed a little bit silly actually now looking back on that. And much like you, I thought that Captain Freedom and Ben had a fight, but yeah, he didn't. He turned it down, didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, that scene though, that was so nice. I mean, walking in there, that armour is squeaking. It's like, where did they dig that up from? It's so fun.
Even as he leaves, it's just like as he's walking out. Like, yeah, that had to be intentional. That part there, I getting the vibe that I think the Dynamo one was just terrible, and they actually meant that. But this one, I think this was designed to look like that, into showing that Captain Freeman wasn't going to do this dressed as a ridiculous thing. But it was funny how he come out and done it. And of course, they show this pretend fight between Captain Freeman and Ben Richards, which this pretend fight is probably one of the best fights of the whole film, despite it's apparently, it's not real. So you see Amber getting killed, and it's kind of the fight itself, the choreography of the fight is very 80s style. It's like that old school. And of course, at this point, whilst this is going on, Mick and his group, Stevie's group, come in, and apparently this is hilarious because they wrap them up, they find them out, and all of a sudden, he's told Mick that he's got the uplink code, and they show the pretend fight. But then not only that, Amber has given Mick the raw footage of Richard's footage at the beginning. Now, where the hell did she keep that? Well, even he asks that, but I'm thinking, hang on a minute, Jesus, what are we saying here? Like this, that was seemed like a real plot issue there, and they just come up with that line just to think, oh, that will cover that one, yeah, we don't know where it was, hint, hint. So yeah, I don't know what that was about, but then this is the best bit of it. It's like Mick says what he's going to do, and Stevie's group's going in, and then apparently Richard says they need a leader. They need someone with experience, and I told Killian I'll be back. I wouldn't want to lie. So all of a sudden, he's like, I feel like from this point, Matt, and I'm going to throw it out there, when this happens, this scene, I feel like I'm watching a completely different film. Because all of a sudden, she's got guns, she can handle a weapon like nobody's business, it seems. She doesn't seem too bothered. He's picked up a gun like nobody's business, and all of a sudden he's like some kind of leader into all this, which is just absolutely hilarious through all this, really.
Yeah, just like all of a sudden now they were freedom fighters or whatever, and now Richards is apparently, he cares about the cause, which he didn't really. It just seems like a very selfish move by him at this point. He's just doing it for himself, not for the benefit of all these people who are starving and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. It does. It seems like it takes a completely different plot twist on him, and then we get this whole cheesy music back in the stage area inside the studio, and they're like, I think they're doing like a post-show kind of thing. They're putting that out there after what we've seen, and that's kind of cool because I guess you get that with a lot of reality shows. You get a post-show that goes on after, so they probably got that right as well. I'm not sure that would have happened too much in the 80s, that kind of thing. But Killian takes to the stage, and he's doing a post, I guess a wrap-up show type thing, and he's taking questions from calls. And I love it how there's this lady on the line, and she's like, oh, I feel so sorry for the families of the stalkers. Is there anywhere I can donate? Well, yes, you can. So it's not only is this industry, this place, this company, ripping everybody's money, now they're getting donations from public as well for these murders. So that was hilarious. And then of course, it's all about, the thing in all this is like, okay, I get this whole, I'm going to keep calling him Mick Fleetwood because I swear this is Mick Fleetwood in this film. But he's managed to, he's got this editor guy who he references as Mr. Spock, by the way. I don't know if you saw that one in there, Matt. And the guy turns around and says, who? So I don't know if that meant like they thought Star Trek wasn't going to be around by that time. But I get the feeling because of that guy, that costume guy, that was like a little nod for them that's somewhere in there. But yeah, this guy's able to then, like, once they get the uplink sorted, they can then go on their TV and kind of show the real footage of what really happened that night, which is, just kind of, it's a little bit far-fetched how that's just going to suddenly come on the screen, but apparently they can do that. And of course, that's the next thing that happens, Matt. We get this, like, they put this real video. It's an edited version. It's got, like, Killian is a liar on it and stuff like that. I don't know if you remember seeing that.
Yeah.
It's just just hilarious how they all sort of go about it at this point. But what was your take on that and the way it all kind of comes down to the end here? Because we get that, and then we get this whole, where was it? They show the real. The three guys that were supposed to win it? We get the real. They just show like their corpses, like bones. I'm like, how did they get that footage? Where's that come from? Like, where is this all coming from? Like, this great stuff. And then, of course, they show the real footage of Richards with that horrible acting's back in it again. That's, the worst thing in the film when we have to see it 3 times. That's the only downfall there. But, it's unclear how Amber was able to smuggle that video of the raw, footage in. I've got to be honest with you. But nonetheless, we get what we get given there. But what was your take on how that went down as an ending? Because I kind of feel like this ending it's very unclimactic here at this juncture for me, the way this is going down.
Yeah, it definitely feels like very rushed at this point. Like they had the whole structure of the film, and they were like point A, B, C, D, and then it's just not enough meat in between. Yeah. Very jumpy at this point. And just to see Arnie at this point walk around with a machine gun and a cigar, I'm thinking, what am I watching? Am I watching Commando all of a sudden?
It's almost like he's got off his like actor's chair and just thought, yeah, I'll just act like this now. That's fine. I'll just go out like this. That's done. But yeah, I mean, and Killian's on the stage and he's like, that's not real. And then his number one fan gets on. She's like, bullshit. She's not having that. And then Ben Richards, the way he enters, like, come on, it's showtime. He's got a gun. He's really into all this. And meanwhile, Amber runs into Dynamo around the backstage, and he hasn't got any trousers on. Now, there's a lot of people comment on this, like, why has he not got trousers? I'm guessing that's because he wet himself, Matt, in the car thing. Is that? I'm guessing that's the reason why.
A good explanation for that. This is another one of those things that they need to make clear.
Yeah, it's pretty dire. And he's weed himself there, and then of course she gets him. It's kind of weird what level they go to in this film because it does take a real bad turn all of a sudden, like in tone, and then of course he gets electrocutes himself for when all the water comes down, which is, by the way, I'm surprised she didn't get electrocuted in all of that, but that's his ending in all this, and was that a good ending to him? I don't know. I didn't really think it was much special. Could have really have left that out. I wouldn't have been too fussed seeing Dynamo get electrocuted or whatever, but I guess that was one of the ends they had to put in, the end of him. And then, of course, you get this arena shot, and it's, by this point, it's become quite empty, and we get this whole Richards just walking in, and, I love it how he says, hello, cutie pie, he's saying it to him, and says, one of us is in deep trouble. And this is where I think they could have spent a little bit more time with dialogue. Like, they could have had so much backward and forth between these two guys before we get to the point we get to. But they really don't. I feel like we get cheaped out of it a little bit here, Matt, because what they do is they have this big security guard, Sven. He comes in, who looks like the big boss man kind of gimmick going on. And, you know, he comes in and, you know, Killian thinks he's got